Very good afternoon to all of you. Myself, Dr. Sanjib Pattnaik, will be undertaking a course which has been coded MMPF 003, and the name of the course is Management Control System. Now, this particular course, the name itself will suggest, we will be trying to have some control or the control systems in the organization, so that it will help us to achieve our goals effectively and efficiently. In the first block, we shall try to look at the various concepts and the contexts that are involved in management control. Particularly today, we will be discussing about your first unit of block 1, that is an introduction to the management control system. From now onwards, we can tell it as MCS. Right? Now let us first see what are the various definition, the nature and purpose of management control. Now, when we are talking of management control system, we try to say that it is mainly designing it, installing it and operating it to achieve the objectives of the organization. Now, the designing of the MCS will vary from organization to organization, as we shall see later on. Then, how we shall take into account the human relations inside the organization, so that the designed MCS is installed and we try to operate it, so that we can know whether we are on the right track or not. So defining it, we say it as a set of activities or decisions taken by the organization or managers to establish the purposes, to allocate resources and achieve goals. Now here we are talking specifically about the various kind of decisions that will lead to establish the purpose by allocating the various scarce resources of the organization, so that the goals of the organization is achieved. So this particular management control, it consists of two words, management and control. Now, when we are talking of management, we have a definition for that, and from that definition only the term management control has been derived. When we talk of controlling, then we say what has been the planned activities, what are the actual activities at any point of time. If we are deviating out of the course, what kind of corrective actions we can take, so that we can come back to the track. Now, when we are talking of definition of management, we try to say it as POSDCORP, Post D Corp. So that is the definition of management. In other words, P for planning, O for organizing, S for staffing, D for directing, CO for controlling, R the results, and B, we are talking of the budgets. So this has been the definition of the management control or the management which led to management control. Now, various authors have defined management control in different ways, but mainly all the definitions try to establish that it is the process taken by the organization or its managers to reach the goals of the organization. Now, the first definition that we shall see is provided by Anthony Ardenden in 1981. They said that it is the process by which managers assure that resources are obtained and used effectively and efficiently to reach goals. Yes, we know that resources, any kind of resources in the organization, are to be taken as scarce. So you have to make the best use of them. How? Now, by using it effectively and efficiently. When I say effectively, that means it is doing the things correctly. And when I am talking of efficiency or efficiently, we are talking about doing the things at the right time. So when we do the things or the tasks are completed at the right time by the effective use or the right use of resources to reach goals, that will establish the purpose of management control system. Further, another important definition given by again Anthony and here Govindarajan in 1994. It is the process by which managers influence other members of the organization to implement organization's strategies. Now, when we say strategies, it is the way the organization wants to move in the long run. And basically, it is again post the corp, the planning, organizing, staffing, directing, controlling the results, and budgeting. So here we are talking of the relationship between the managers of the organization, or in other words, the managers or the members of the organization in the various different divisions of a particular firm. Now, from these definitions, what are the things we get as nature and purpose of MCS? Now, what we find from Anthony and Govindarajan's definition, now it talks about two things: decision making and leading. Now, what is the decision making thing? Now, communicating and evaluating information and recommending action to be taken. Now, when we have certain kind of information coming to the managers, that means it is communicated to the managers, they are evaluated, that means they are assessed whether the tasks are being done in the proper way. Now, this is compared with the planned tasks. If there are certain kind of deviations, then we try to take decisions. That means, in other words, the various actions that need to be taken so that we are back again on the correct track. Leading. As you can see, if you can influence people to change behavior, so that what happens? Now the control system in the organizational structure falls in place and makes the organization moves towards achieving its strategic goals. Then it is the leading. So we try to influence people to change their behavior in order to adopt the MCS system. Further, Merchant in 1998 said regarding the nature and purpose of MCS in the form of functions, resources, and processes. Now, when we are talking of functions of an organization, basically we say organization produces goods or services. In other words, operations. These goods and services are meant for the various clients or the customers. That means we sell it. Thereby, it is the sales function. Then, organization thinks of expanding its business, where from the finance will come or the funding will come. In other words, the financing function. Apart from that, organizations also look towards improvement of their existing products so that they keep either at same level with other new products in the similar way, or something which is path breaking in the industry. In other words, it is the product development function. Now, secondly, merchant says about the resources that are consumed. When we are talking of resources, we talk of mainly three M's: men, money, and machines. So he has said people, money, and machines. After that, he has included another resource, that is information. So information should pass between various people at various levels of hierarchy in the organization, so that whatever is the envisaged plan of the organization can be better understood by all the people who are involved in the task, thereby making it a smooth ride to achieve the goals of the organization. Then, lastly, he talks about the processes. The processes include objective setting, strategy formulation, and controlling it. At the beginning of the MCS in the organization structure, we first set the objective. That means what we are going to achieve at a given point of time in the future. So what we want to achieve has to be specified. In other words, objective has to be specified. Then looking at the objective, we try to frame the various strategies that need to be formulated or need to be developed so that the objectives can be achieved. Now, once this has been done, we move on to the controlling aspect of the control process. What is that? Now, when we have set up the objective and the way we shall move forward to achieve the objective, we start the actual works. Now, at some point, during the task being getting done, we try to generate what is the planned strategy and what is the actual achievement till that point. Now there we try to locate if there are any kind of deviations. If there are deviations, yes, we can say that. If it is negative deviation, let us try to control that or bring that back to the normal track. If it is positive deviation, we try to search for the results or the vaccines behind which such kind of positive deviations have occurred. This will be helpful in the future course of action. Now, again, Merchant in 1998, while going for the definition, nature and purpose of MCS, said that the framework of MCS has three type of controls: action controls, results controls, personnel and cultural controls. Now, what are these three type of controls? Now, when we have set up a particular objective, we start the work to carry out or complete the objective. Now, here the action of the employees are very important. Now, whether actually the action of the employees are becoming beneficial to the organization. That means, is it having an impact on the organization? That is what he tried to look at. Then it talks about results controls. That means whatever are the results that is coming out of the way the work has been completed, it can be positive results or negative results. Usually positive results are rewarded so that it will motivate not only the employee but also other employees to get positive results, and punishments if there are negative results. So no one wants punishment, everyone tries to move towards getting a positive result so that they can get the rewards. Finally, personnel and cultural controls. Now, every human being have certain kind of psychology which differs from one to the other. The cultural backgrounds are also different. So what happens here? It needs a great adjustment so that a teamwork can be formed to achieve the objectives of the organization. So these cultural and personal controls are steps to control employees' behavior. That means how they are behaving in the organization with their colleagues. Those are the two things that is seen in our personal and cultural controls. Now, basic concepts and elements that are there in our particularly you can say MCS. So here we are talking of 5 type of metaphors of control systems. First one is engineering model, second one is nature's model, third one is man machine control, fourth one is yes no, Fifth one is the input, the output. Now let us understand what these systems are. Let us go to the engineering model. Now, in this hot summer climate of India, that means during this particular, starting from March, April onwards, the summer season enters into the Indian climatic conditions. And mostly people nowadays are using AC. In ACs, we might have seen that there is a temperature level. I set the temperature level at suppose 25 degree. The function of the AC now is it will start to cool the room till it reaches 25 degree. Once it reaches the 25 degree, the thermostat, engineering device which measures the temperature and informs the compressor switch that now you switch off. The room has got to a temperature of 25 degrees. Now the AC compressor will switch off automatically. Now if there is an increase of temperature inside the room by 3 degrees, that means from 25 to 28, again the thermostat will send a communication to the starter machine of the compressor that you start the compressor as the room has become heated. So when you are talking of engineering model, we are talking of devices which can automatically control the tasks. Second is nature's model of control. Almost all of us have suffered from the general fever. Now, why does the fever occurs? Now, when our body, the what we can say, the body's temperature rises above 98.7 degree F, we say that fever is setting in. That means the body is being attacked by some kind of outside organisms which are harmful to the body. In order to fight them out, the body takes the role of generating fever in the body, which will control the spread of these organisms. This will happen automatically. This has been fitted by the nature to our body. We don't go by any kind of engineering devices here. It is God's gift, that is, our body is fit to fight back certain kind of diseases by use of the fever. Now the third type control system we shall see is man-machine control model. Now, many of us have seen the cars moving around. Many of us might be proficient in driving the cars. Now the car is a machine and it is run by a particular person who is the driver. Here we have written it as man. So man machine. Man is the driver, machine is the car. So it goes into action through a process called as ABC. That means a man, by using accelerator, brake and clutch, ABC, can run the machine smoothly so that they can move from one place to another. The man can control the machine to bring it to stop, to drive it at a faster speed, to bring down the speed, etc. The next type of model we shall see is yes-no control model. Now taking an example of, let us say, traffic light. You might have seen there are three signals: green, red and orange or yellow. Green means totally go. Red means totally stop. Orange means slow down or get prepared for either green or red that will be coming up. So here what will be happening? Now the traffic post will be signaling the various traffic users that whether to go or not to go for a particular time period. Either yes, that means go, or no, don't go, stop. The final model that we shall see is input output model. Now, this is a typical model where if you look at it carefully, the model, the conversion process, we know that is input, conversion process, then output. Here we haven't shown the conversion process. We have shown only the input and the output. Taking an example of, many of us might have heard about a certain equipment called as black box used in aircrafts. What happens in the cockpit? The signals, the mechanical actions that are being performed are all recorded in the black box. And it is such a device, it is very difficult to be destroyed, either by submerging in water, by fire, by crash, etc. It is very difficult to destroy it. It will remain intact. So whatever are the information coming in from the airplane during its flight are all recorded in the black box. Now, if certain uncertainty or certain bad thing happens, like crash of the aircraft, the first task of the investigator are to find out the black box. Why? Because they can take it to the lab and generate the output out of the black box. Nobody of us have seen what is the inside of a black box. Usually we see the input cable comes from the plane and is pinned onto the black box. And if it is taken to labs, then the output pin is taken to the computers to generate the outputs. So this is a input-output model. Now what are the various type of systems or MCS? Now we can have is, first one is open loop, second one is closed loop. In open loop, what happens? We don't take any kind of decisions. There we provide the input, then the inputs are transformed or transferred to give an output. It will not say anything that you take decisions in this particular way or that particular way. When we go to closed loop, it will take that is, these are the decisions that can be taken and the system will take the decision. Here, the system has three parts: detectors, selectors, and effector. Now, detector, what it is? Now, it will try to detect what is the objective of a certain thing or what is the course of action. The selector will say whether the results of the action is falling into the place or it is deviating from that, and the information so generated are passed on to the effector, which will try to take necessary steps so as to control the negative of the task. So open loop and closed loop. Now looking at the characteristics of MCS. When we are talking of characteristics, we can say MCS always has to go by organization's plans and objectives. Definitely, if you are developing a MCS for suppose a particular bank, it will be somewhat different with MCS of a particular trading company. So, according to the organization's plans and objectives, the MCS has to be in line with the organization's plans and objectives. The MCS should be done as per the organization structure and managers' decision making responsibilities. So they will take into account what are the various hierarchical structure in the organization and which level of managers are responsible for which kind of decision making. And MCS always tries to encourage the managers and the employees of the organization by using a variety of rewards for good performance. Now, what are the factors that influence the design of MCS? The various types we can say is organization's size and spread. We know that organizations differ in size. Some may be very large scale, some may be medium scale, some may be small scale. So, the design of MCS for the organization according to their size will be differing. Similarly, organizations may be spread over a large geographical area or a small geographical area. Thereby, accordingly, we shall design the MCs. The second factor we can talk about is the form of organization, the delegation, and decentralization. Now, when we talk about organization form, as we shall move on to the next few slides, we shall see the various organization forms, types. When we are talking of delegations, that means if a manager tries to give authority to his subordinate manager to do a task, it is the delegation. In that case, what are the things need to be done? And decentralization. If the organization is big, usually, then the power and authority are decentralized. Instead of holding them back at particularly in the head office or at the top management level, it will be decentralized. Small organization, they can go by centralized form. The next factor is operational nature and divisibility. Now, when you are talking of divisibility, we are talking of divisions. Now, divisions of an organization, if an organization is producing a variety of products, then they can be considered as the various divisions. Next is types of responsibility centers. Organizations have profit center, cost centers, the revenue centers, etc. So there they will be taken into account while designing the MCS. And finally, the managers, the employees in the organization, and their perception are taken into consideration while designing the MCS for the organization. Objectives, when we are talking of MCS, first is to keep track of progress. Now, when we have planned a certain objective under MCS, we have to keep track of the actual progress of the tasks in order to achieve that objective. At any point of time, we can match what is the planned progress of the task and what is the actual achievement of the task. Thereby, we can find out if there are any variances. Now, the variances can be controlled by changing the way of work that is being done. Now, the change can also come from external forces. That means the marketplace, the customer's expectation, etc. So, MCS should be designed in such a way that it can respond to the various kind of changes, either internal or external, that is occurring to the organization objectives. Now, talking of delegation, here the senior manager may delegate some kind of authority to the lower level managers. It does not mean that his responsibilities are over. The senior manager's responsibility is to look from time to time whether the junior manager is on the right track, taking right decisions, and if any variances are there, what kind of changes that are needed to be undertaken. That means he will guide the junior managers. Identification of mistakes. any kind of negative variances, we should try to locate why it has happened. That means why the mistake has been done, so that corrective actions, as at the last we can find, we can recommend corrective actions. And this whole task involves a lot of complexity, as big organizations are very complex due to their mega size in implementation of MCS. Now looking at the various types of management control system. Now here we are having the formal control system and informal control system. Now what is formal control system? Now it is the control system that has been set by the team of the organization in setting up of MCS, and it is written down. That means it is strictly to be adhered with rules and regulations. So it is a binding thing written down so that everyone has to follow it. It consists of three things: input controls, the process controls, output controls. Now, in case of input controls, for example, what is the specification of raw material that is going to be used? What is the skill level of the human resources that need to be there in the organization, etc. Process controls, when we are talking of the machinery types, how much of mechanization that will be used in the production process or generation of products or services. Then output, when you are talking of whether the desired output of goods and services are adhering to the set standards. So all these things will be written up and will be strictly adhered to. Now talking of informal control system, here we don't have any kind of rigid written down things. It is over the years which has been developed by the employees, the work culture, the organization's way of doing the work, and it passes on from employees to employees. The first is under informal is self-control. How one should keep himself or herself in control, because as we have said, humans are psychological beings. Whatever we may think may not be thought of by others. So it is our task to justify them regarding the task which we are thinking of, or the way the work we are thinking of. Here we cannot enforce that whatever we are thinking of have to be adopted by all. Here we have to maintain self-control. Similarly, we have to look at the social controls and the cultural controls. Now, what are the various components of MCS? When we are talking of MCS, we are talking of PMR as the basic component. It is planning, measurement, and reporting. First of all, we plan regarding the tasks that are needed to be undertaken to achieve the objective. Now, as the actual task goes on, we try to measure what is the actual progress, how actually it has been done, and try to compare that with the planned way of doing the task. Any deviations are reported to the management for taking right kind of decisions, so that the things will again fall back to the place. Second is the hierarchy of control. Now here, when we are talking of control hierarchical level, we talk of strategy, management, and the operational or task control. Now, at the top is strategical control, followed by management control, and third is the task control. Now, organizational structure and control process vary from organization to organization. Now, what are the various type of organizational structure we have in general? One is functional, another is divisional, another one is matrix, another one is networking. Now, what is a functional organization? Now, in functional organization, what happens? Now, the organization is divided into the various functional areas. That means the finance, the marketing, operations, investment, R&D, etc. And if the organization has, suppose 3 or 4 products X, Y, Z, suppose for product X, Y, Z, the finance function will be looked after by the financial manager of the organization. That means the functional head of the organization regarding finance. Mostly this is used for our small organizations. Now, the second type of organizational structure that we have is the divisional structure. What happens when organization grow big? For example, like Tata. What they do? They try to have a segregation of the overall organization into various divisions. And these divisions are according to the particular product they are manufacturing. Now here, each divisional structure or divisional unit will be having its own functional managers, and the interaction between various divisions will be done by the top managers of the various divisions. So in functional organization, a particular functional area manager will be looking after all the products, but in divisional organization, what is happening? Now, the organization is looked after by managers who are in charge of a particular product called as a particular division, consisting of its own functional area managers. Now, when we combine the aspects of functional manager with divisional managers, that means we try to divide the organization into various divisions, whereas the functional area manager is responsible for every of the division. That means taking the characteristic of both functional and divisional organization, we say it as matrix organization or matrix form of organization structure. This is usually seen in project organizations. And finally, we have a network organization structure, which is the latest organizational structure that has been developed. Now here we take the help of the systems, or in other words, the computers, the computer networks, and the organizational structure work upon the networks. Next component of MCS is the responsibility centers. Now in organization, we have different responsibility centers. That means what? A particular responsibility center is one where it is looked after by a manager who is responsible for some specified objective. For example, let us take cost responsibility center or cost center to say it as. Now here, the particular cost center's manager is responsible for the cost incurred in that particular center. That means his primary objective is how to minimize the cost, but not by reducing the quality of inputs. For example, we can take is the raw material division. So here cost of raw material is the vital factor. Here the focus is only on the cost, and the manager of the raw material division is responsible for the cost of raw materials at right quality and at right time. Now, second one is revenue center. When we are talking of revenue center, we are talking of only the sales. That means the sales point. If you are having a sales division, that becomes a revenue center. Next is profit center. As the name is profit, here both revenue and cost happens. In that case, the manager is responsible for increasing the revenue or to decrease the cost so that the profit is maximized. And finally, investment center. When the organization goes for expansion, etc., it needs to fund its projects. So where from the funding will come? How much is the capacity to be set up? Which product line is to be produced? Are all the responsibility of an investment center manager. Next is corporate culture. If we move from one corporate to another, if we go and have a look at it, Reliance may be differing from the way SBI is working. They will be having different corporate culture. Or in other words, Steel Authority of India Limited will be having different corporate culture as compared to a shipping industry. So, according to the corporate culture, the MCS will be done. MCS should always have what are the rewards or compensation that are to be associated with the good results of the managers and employees. And MCS should always be based on communication and integration of communication. Now, looking at MCS, what are the other dimensions that we can talk of? One is FOSI, that is foreign ownership, control or influence. Second is the complex industry dynamics as well as the disasters. Third one is ethicality in the industry. Fourth one is impact of internet. Now, what is that FOCI? FOCI. Foreign ownership. When we see that an organization's MCS, management control system, is guided by, assessed by, and decided by any kind of entity which does not belong to the organization, it may be inside the country or it may be from outside the country, we say that there is a influence of foreign ownership. Second is, if there is control over the management structure by the foreign entity, then we say that yes, here our things are controlled by the foreign entity or it is influenced by the foreign entity. Next is complex industry dynamics. What is happening in today's rapidly changing economic world as well as we can say highly competitive era driven by technology, the industry dynamics have become very fast and the need of the hour is to adapt to the changing dynamics of the industry. So MCS should guide us in that regards. Disaster. MCS should always have a basic preparation for any kind of disaster, either man-made or natural disaster that may happen or affect the organization. For example, nobody knew that a pandemic like our COVID-19 would hit the total of the world in such a way that it came to a complete stop for not less than around 3-4 months, thereby hampering every kind of organizations. Now, in order to come out of that, there has to be certain plans, or there were plans by the organization in MCS which help them to come out through that period in flying colors. Nowadays, importance is given to ethicality, and when we look at the passing on of information, internet has rapidly changed the information world. At blink of an eye or faster than that, information can be sent to any number of persons, any place, and free of cost. So MCS has been impacted by the internet, and we should make good use of internet. The general considerations in designing are the top management responsibility, organization, goal, fairness, and objectivity. So this is the basic introduction to MCS. We'll continue with the later sessions in the next session. Thank you.